Can it sound already on? We're tuning in to change.
Hello and welcome back to Meditation for Misfits with your host Alice Chinn, back with another wonderful guest, inspiring conversations, and perhaps some tips and tools as well. This show comes out every second Wednesday at 6:30 UK time. And I'm delighted to introduce today Jude Brown. And Jude is someone that I met through the Connected Kids program. So we both trained on the Connected Kids program a few years ago now. I think we met on a screen, not in person.
Yeah, I can't remember actually.
I think COVID times it was perhaps. Yeah. And something I really love about the Connected Kids program and the different trainers that we are is how different we all are, like so different. And one of the reasons I brought Jude on to this show is that, you know, she's doing a PhD in meditation and mindfulness, focusing specifically on early years and the parenting of these young people. And, you know, I intuitively know in my bones that meditation and mindfulness, you know, it's got all these benefits and, you know, I can reel off benefits and but, you know, Jude's obviously an expert in things that I don't know so much about. And I thought that would be really interesting to bring someone on that can shed some more light on parts where we can all learn something, myself included, right? So, you know, I had this like more formal like introduction planned, and it's just come out like that, which is also perfect. Yes, I would say that every Connected Kids trainer and every person that trains on this program, which is, you know, introducing kids to meditation and mindfulness and supporting I always talk about their adults, no, whether they're educators, parents, carers. Each trainer, we bring our own energy and our own magic and our own passion and our own skills. So I really wanted to have this conversation with Jude as well, to also kind of put it in the context of Connected Kids and this thing that connects us, no? So I know you have a master's degree in attachment and nurture, and you're doing this PhD at the moment, which is exploring the impact of mindfulness meditation on parenting and children under the age of 3. Now I realized I haven't even said the name of the show. So Jude suggested Mindful Me, Mindful You is the name for the show. And before we dive right in, welcome Jude, and I would love to stop and take 3 breaths together. I think it's a nice way to connect and start the show. Yeah, so if you want to put your hands on your heart, and for the listeners as well, this will just be 20-30 seconds. It's just a really nice way to have a reset and a mindful moment. So if you want to close your eyes, please do. And then let's just take 3 big, long, deep breaths. Just slowing everything down. Just being aware of your body and your breath and the connection with the center of your chest, with your heart. And do one more breath. And then when you're done, you can open your eyes. There we go, the power of the breath. Welcome, Jude.
It does feel good to do that, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Just those few moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like when I do it with in the show in this context, it's like connecting to myself and connecting to the guest, and probably to the listeners as well, no? So we're recording this show on a Saturday morning. This is a first for me. Thank you for giving us your time. I know you're really busy. Mindful Me, Mindful You. I know that this is something you've done. Was it a presentation, or tell me the significance of this phrase for you?
Yeah, so I have to give credit actually to a wonderful lady called Lisa, who's in Southern Ireland first, because that's really important.
Yeah.
Somebody I met who's doing similar work to me. You know, when you're doing kind of the academic stuff, you cross paths with people, and actually often cross paths for very good reasons. There's like a reason that you've met. So the Mindful Me, Mindful You was her idea, and we've been talking about working together to create potentially a book. It's sitting there at the moment, particularly aimed at caregivers. So we're using the phrase caregiver because that obviously is inclusive for everybody, whatever role you have, whether you're a parent, a grandparent, a young carer. So for me, the mindful me, that bit kind of emphasizes us as individuals, that sort of self-awareness, cultivating our own sense of presence, and being present when we're interacting with children. And then the mindful you refers again, that kind of emphasizes, well, what's the experience like for the other, or particularly in my case, for the child? Kind of, are we aware of the child's needs? Are we aware of their emotions? Because they're external for them. We're aware of, mindful me is my internal settings, for want of a better word, how I feel. But obviously being attuned to the child's or others' external feelings, emotions, behaviors. And it's a two-way thing, very reciprocal. And again, it's kind of highlighting the importance that actually for very young children, and particularly children under 3, and this is where the neuroscience bit kind of comes in, is we've realized through research that young children don't have that capacity to self-regulate at that age. Their brain is just not, their brain develops bottom up. So, that ability to control and regulate our emotions comes online later.
What do you mean by it? I love that, because it's like I'm a really visual person, and like I like what you just said, that it develops bottom up. Like, what does that mean?
Okay, so
in simple terms,
in simple terms, right? Your primal brain, the brain at the back, the cerebellum, it's called, is like your sensory. It's like your fight, flight, freeze. Your amygdala's in there. Your survival brain is the one that develops first, and then in the middle you've kind of got your limbic system, which is like your emotional area of the brain, and your hippocampus is in there. That's like when you start to develop memories. And then obviously the new brain, they call it, is the prefrontal cortex. So it does develop in that kind of order as you are growing and developing as a young child. So little tiny babies are very governed, if you like, by their sensory awareness, its sights, its smells, its sounds, and their physical development. And that's the bit that's the bit, isn't it, of safety and security, that bottom brain as well. So we know that if children, and obviously I'm very, very interested in really tiny, brand new babies here, that when they are made to feel safe and their needs are met, and they are, we call it attachment or attunement, that the caregiver is meeting consistently those needs. That gives them a feeling of sense and security. And we know from our meditation practice that, our root chakra is our place of safety, isn't it? And our grounding, and these things are all connected. So yeah, the brain, I'm kind of not an expert on the brain, but I've begin to understand that if that bit isn't in place, that can have a massive impact on our emotional ability to regulate those emotions, and even to think clearly. I mean, you think about a moment when you've been stressed or anxious, our ability to think clearly kind of goes offline, doesn't it?
It does. I often explain it like a stressed brain. Well, it's a stressed brain as a stressed body as well, but it can't learn new information. Like, it just can.
The connection is broken.
And then you think, like, why are we not having meditation and mindfulness as part of like curriculums in schools? Like,
totally.
Because and of course, if kids are balanced, if kids are balanced isn't the word. If kids are able to come out of that stress response and have tools and techniques to feel calmer and more relaxed, then they're going to be able to learn better,
Absolutely. And also, you know, I really find it, I don't know whether when you've done connected kids work, when I talk to the children about the brain, they love it. They're fascinated about it. And I often say, look, when you are feeling anxious or stressed, it's actually your body's natural system of protection. It's your little smoke alarm, isn't it? It's your little warning system. So we have to notice this and doing activities, breathing, grounding, sensory awareness, that immediately calms. I mean, the breath immediately calms the amygdala, you know, and starts to reverse that, you know, those impact on your sympathetic nervous system. So, yeah, and I think children, give them the information about the physical stuff and the neuroscience stuff. They love it, and it, yeah, it becomes, it puts it into context when we're all, you know, our body's got systems in place to protect us and help us. And, you know, I just think it's fascinating having those conversations with young people, really, about
absolutely.
that. And parents, obviously.
Like, information is power. And you just reminded me of a time when I was teaching a group session, and I think it was all girls. They were like 11 or something, just really engaged kids. And we were talking about the stress response, and we were talking about, you know, this thing that you learn in connected kids training, you know, the amygdala hold. So, you know, I'm for the list that, you know, this is audio format, but this amygdala hold is like, I call it a head hug. Actually, it's giving your head a hug with your hand on your forehead and then on the nape of your neck. And I explained about the amygdala and the stress response, and, like, you know, when we meditate, we're activating the prefrontal cortex, which you might have heard. I'm saying this to the listeners, like executive function, no, and everything, and just that thing of, like, you know, being able to make healthy choices, to be able to be more aware of, like, what's going, you know, not having that fuzzy brain that we have when we're stressed. And one of the girls came up with this part of her brain, so the prefrontal cortex was asking the co-pilot. So it's like, I'm not sure. So, like, meditation helps her access the co-pilot. And then we drew pictures, and she drew a pic, you know, and it was just like, and I wrote a whole text on it. I wrote a thing for, like, social media because I felt so inspired. So meditation can, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think from the parental perspective, so like the work I've been doing with my PhD, because when I learned all this really important stuff about us as co-regulators, and particularly at that very young age, you know, I've loved working with children, obviously, through Connected Kids, and I've worked in a lot of schools and nurseries, but it was the parenting groups that I felt, you know, they are the key person for me with young children. They're the protective factor, and they can provide through their own regulation this sort of safe, this nurturing, responsive kind of environment in times of stress. They can model that. You know, and you know what it's like if you're feeling stressed. What if somebody comes to you and is calm and just maybe sits with you or holds space for you? They're not there to kind of fix it for you, but is just around, you know, that can be very, very supportive. And this is what this is what babies need. They need that environment. You know, there's a lot of theories out there, Bronfenbrenner's theory and all sorts of theories about, you know, how creating that nurturing environment for young children is so important. But if we attack that with becoming dysregulated ourselves, that just, you know, that can just all make everything worse, can't it? So a few deep breaths, you know.
I would, yeah, and I would love to go into that more. I think we should play your first song, and then I would love to go more into that, what you're saying. And I loved, by the way, how this word, like, caregivers, is an inclusive word. Like, I'm all for inclusive language, and I think it's really great to have that awareness as well, no? And yes, so the first song that you have chosen is Mama by Sam Garrett and Mollie Mendoza. Why have you picked this song, Jude?
Well, I was introduced to Sam by a really good friend of mine, not that long ago, actually, probably only about a year ago. He kind of emerged through lockdown. And I had the privilege of going to see him last week in London.
Yeah, you said that.
So, we were in this wonderful old church building. It's called Union Chapel. People may know it. It's near Islington. Absolutely amazing. And the vibe. And when I looked and you said choose some songs, obviously this is really current for me, and just the incredible atmosphere, togetherness. This song's about, it's about connecting to the earth. It's about bringing people together. It's about kind of nature, the elements. Yeah, and it's got the word mama in. And, my work is about being a parent. I'm working with mothers. So it just felt like this was the right choice today.
Super. Well, let's listen to Mama by Sam Garrett and Mollie Mendoza, and then we will continue our chat.
Kind of Sound Radio, the station for a global community.
Welcome back to Meditation for Misfits with your host, Alice Chinn. I'm having a lovely chat with Jude Brown, and we just had her first song, or as I like to call them, Desert Island Discs. And
I've always wanted to go on there.
Yeah. And I was admitting to Jude that I've had a busy week and I hadn't done my homework, in the sense that I hadn't listened to the songs in advance from the show. And turns out I know this song and quite well. And it was in Spanish, which, if you're just listening to the show for the first time, I am Scottish. You did hear that accent correctly. And I do live in Catalonia in Spain. So I loved listening to that song. I find it very calming. And like you say, connotations of nature. So thank you for bringing that to me and to the show and to the listeners. Now, we were going to dive in a bit further to your PhD. And my question to you, Jude, is what are your most important findings from your PhD and the impact of meditation and mindfulness in young kids? There's my formal question for you.
Wow. So just to give you a little bit of context, the exploration really of how mindfulness meditation supports parenting of very young children was where I started. And that came from a place of personal experiences, being a mother myself, and struggling a little bit with kind of postnatal depression very early on when I had my children. And I was very lucky that I was guided towards meditation. And I think the research is really grounded in that personal experience, and wanting to support young parents, caregivers. So I've been working with this wonderful group of new mums. And the big difference is, when you think about PhDs and research and studies, you often think about it being quite scientific or very data driven. And of course, there is data, because data really is the information which will form the part of the findings, as they call it. But I did something quite different. I actually offered my participants a toolkit, which included a journal, a camera, sensory materials such as candles, and creative materials. And what they've been really wonderful at doing is having a go at some mindful meditation, because as a new parent, you haven't got a lot of time, and a lot of people sometimes have the perspective that meditation is very much about sitting in a very quiet space for 20 minutes, with your legs crossed and kind of omming a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not,
really not.
No. And, as we found out at the very beginning of this program, 3, 4, 30 seconds of deep breathing can really ground you in the present moment. And I wanted it to be very intuitive, and I wanted it to be very natural. So I didn't give them a prescriptive set of materials. I gave them some ideas of meditation practices, breathing activities, body activities, movement, sensory activities. And I said, have a go. Find the things. They were little set. It's like a little set of cards, actually, I gave them. So just find one that speaks to you. So basically, they've created journals. I mean, a lot of the participants have journaled about their experience, and it is just feels a most privileged position to now be reading through their data. And they're talking, I basically asked them two questions. Has your perception of meditation changed? And do you think it shaped your parenting? So that's what I'm looking at the moment. And I'm reading through, listening to conversations that we've had and looking at their beautiful journals and finding that even small moments, small practices have had quite a profound impact on them personally. And in turn, as we were talking about earlier, the fact that they felt more regulated, that is being shared with their child and helping their child. Even, I mean, their children were all under one when I met them. So there is an essence, it's quite early in the data analysis at the moment, there is a suggestion that regulation, that self-regulation, that mindful me is turning up to a mindful you. It's interesting stuff. And I feel very privileged, empowered by this, that all the way through, I sort of had this idea that, you know, if I can help just a few people, then that's what I'm going to do. And I think we're getting there, which is wonderful.
Sounds like you are, and it's really
wonderful.
inspiring to listen. And obviously your passion comes through, and it's like, I'm all for mindful toolkits. You know, that's what I think it's a really accessible way to explain whether you're supporting parents, carers, or kids directly. No, it's like, you know, what we want to do here, especially thinking about Connected Kids approach methodology. It's like we want to equip you with some bespoke mindful tools, and as you said, that work for you and give you the freedom and the permission to play around with things and see what works. No, this idea that everyone can meditate, but you need a bit of support to be shown that it's possible to find the right fit for you of the type of meditation or mindful tools. And the other thing I wanted to say was the thing is like ripple effects. You know, it's like like the work you're doing is creating this powerful effect. And what those carers, those parents, those mums are then going to create ripple effects in their worlds, you know?
You know, that's really interesting. I can't believe you said, and we haven't spoken about this at all before, have we? But
no.
I'm looking at something called, it's a bit technical, but it's called diffractive analysis. Okay. And literally that is like a piece of data. It's like dropping a pebble in a pond and observing and looking at the ripples. And there's somebody else's pebbles over there. And where do their ripples go? And sometimes these ripples interconnect.
Yeah.
So I'll just share with you that one of the really strong, there's two really strong things that are coming out of the initial findings, which is connection to nature is so strong. And also the sense of slowing down of time, you know, as parents, you know, we as human beings, we're busy people. We're really, if we're not careful, we're really, really super busy. And we know that we live in the future, you know, we're future thinking a lot, aren't we?
Yeah.
But this idea of just being present with your child, consciously present with your child, even just for a few moments, there's this essence of time slowing. And I love this idea of, excuse me, parenting slower, excuse me.
It's okay.
Yes. And really embracing and enjoying the joyful moments that we might miss if we're too busy worrying about things and planning.
Absolutely.
You know, and babies change and grow so quickly, don't they? You know, those first few months, there's so much happening in their brains, in their bodies, in their awareness, in their learning, and we can miss it. if we're not careful.
Mm. How old are your kids now?
20 and 18.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, yeah. And I think some of the things that I started doing Connected Kids, I looked back, I think it was about 2013.
Wow, that's a long time now.
My first, yeah. And my children were, don't ask me, sort of eight and 7 or not. I can't, my maths is not great, but they were. But as they've grown, I think, one of the most powerful things is I can often look back on when I was a new parent and a young mum, and I had some tricky times. I had some difficult times, as I mentioned. Had wonderful support network around me, which was, thank you, that was great. But as teenagers, I've learned a lot about the brain and how you can attune to young people, how you can validate who they are as individuals, and the fact that when I've really learned that when I'm regulated, even if it's quite really challenging, and people say, oh, teenagers, this and that. Teenagers are wonderful. They're incredible. They're just growing as incredible human beings and finding out about the world, and you've got to embrace that. And yeah, I just think I was able to be a better parent because I kind of understood brain stuff, and I understood that actually I use the word validation a lot as well. That I'm not, it's not my role to try and change them. I can just be here and be like I say, a safe space, really. Give advice when asked. Yeah.
I like the word validation, like helping them feel seen, understood. No?
Absolutely. Because, for people to understand their own, to develop and understand their own regulation, they don't want somebody coming in to kind of fix it. And say, oh, it's okay, just do this, just do that. Because then we don't get those tools, do we? And we also don't want people who come in and dismiss it, because then we feel sort of lost and alone and kind of, I'm feeling really bad and really stressed, and where are you? What you want is people around you who get it. And I think validation is that, exactly that is, I can see you, I can hear you, I understand that's difficult for you. Can I help you right now in any way? Those kind of roles are really important. I think. Definitely.
I agree. We're going to go into your second Desert Island Discs. Clap Your Hands by Whilk and Misky. Why this one, Jude?
Well, this just embodies joy for me. And again, I go on yoga retreats, and actually this was a yoga retreat I did in Ibiza. And I think it was 2019. And the wonderful yoga teacher played this song, and she got us to close our eyes and she got us to dance. And it is that dance like nobody's watching. And this song for me is just takes me back there, and allows me to just be free, just have a few moments of dancing and freedom and being in your body. Very important.
Oh, I'm excited to listen to this. And the invitation for anyone listening is, to have a bit of a dance.
Oh,
so let's listen
wherever you are, just dance.
Yeah.
Close your eyes and dance. Do it.
Cook and dance, or do the gardening and dance, wherever you're doing. Work and dance. Clap Your Hands by Whilk and Misky. Let's do it.
Kind of sound, tuning in for change.
Welcome back to Meditation for Misfits with Alice Chinn, and we have just been listening to the wonderful, joyful Clap Your Hands by Whilk and Misky. Thank you, Jude. Jude's been dancing away.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. It's a great song.
So beautiful. It's going on my playlist. Thank you. I'm so grateful to the guests I have on the show for introducing me to new music, because it's one of my favourite things. It's one of my favourite things to investigate and explore new music, so I really appreciate it. Now, as I was mentioning off off air while we were listening, I couldn't be, I wouldn't be true to the show and to the work I do in the world without speaking about misfitness.
Misfit. I love it.
Misfitness, thank you very much. Jude, what is your relationship with being a misfit, if indeed you consider yourself to be one?
Yeah, I found this question really, and I'm glad you asked me this question, because I'm going to be honest, it's not something I've thought about. But then when I thought about it, quite a lot came up. So I think, and I'm kind of also thinking about the young people that you work with as well, and young people that I've worked with. I'm thinking, I don't think I ever really was a misfit. I think I was a bit of an anti-misfit when I was younger, if there's such a thing. Well, I think I tried to fit in so much. I remember, I'm thinking about my teenage years particularly. I really didn't want to be different, and I didn't want to stand out. And I kind of made friends with everybody and got along with everybody, and went with the flow. It's not a bad thing. I'm not kind of criticizing that. But as I've got older, I've become more of a misfit. And I felt, yes, I think I've wanted to be a bit different and stand out. And I think that is just about age and experience as well, and understanding myself more and better. I do think I probably sit a little bit on the ADHD. I'm not diagnosed or anything, but I also love that, because I find, that little bit of hyper helps me pay attention to things and helps me notice things as well. I just embrace skills, and sort of the misfit thing really is I feel really I've become more comfortable in my own skin as I've got older. And I'm not so worried about external validation. Again, that validation word has come up about external. I think often we look for external validation, and we judge ourselves by people or places or things, or I know social media, so much out there, isn't there? And we allow that to be what defines us. And actually we need to have a real strong sense of ourselves and who we are internally. I don't know whether that's a misfit, but I think this individuality is really important. And we really, in this world where, what's that phrase? Is it in this world where you feel the need to fit in, just stand out for something? I can't remember the phrase.
I say we were never meant to fit in, we were meant to stand out.
Yeah.
But also there's this thing, just because you fit in doesn't mean you belong. And this comes from me it was like a meme that a friend sent to me, and it was a head of garlic, and then one clove had been taken out, and in its place there was a mandarin segment. And I just thought that was fascinating. And I actually, when at Christmas time, when I was in Scotland and with my family, like my sisters have like much better iPhones than I do with actually good cameras. So we were taking pictures of like me holding this head of garlic with the mandarin. And I've created a whole meditation on this. And it's called, and actually I should plug that, it's called the I Don't Fit In meditation. And when I put this show out into the world, I will share a link for that in the show notes. That's what podcasters say, isn't it? In the show notes.
Yeah.
It's that, no?
Well, what's interesting to me, and I'm like you, I'm a real visual person. I fit in because that segment kind of probably did fit into that little space.
Yeah, and it was probably,
but it also stood out. Yeah. And I'm on my own terms. I'm going to fit in. We have the ability to choose. I just think it's about just allow your own identity to shine through. And it's great to find what people see. You find your tribes, don't you? You find those people that you really resonate with.
Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah. But some people you just don't vibe with, and that's okay. They'll find other people to vibe with.
But isn't it, I need to jump in and say, isn't it fascinating though that, and this has come up in the last interview I did with Rafaela Diogenes, my Brazilian friend, that she said a very similar thing to you about the teen years and like fitting in. And I think it's really what I would hope, because maybe your mental health didn't suffer so much from like that conforming thing that we do. And I would say, I'm going to generalize and say women and girls, I think, feel a pressure or need to do it more. I am generalizing, maybe not everyone who's listening agrees with me. But I would hope by empowering young people with mindfulness and meditation, which gives them awareness, which helps them question things, would mean that those who were maybe going to suffer more because of whatever reason, because they're neurodiverse or hypersensitive, or that they don't suffer so much, if that they can embrace who they are, especially if that's quite different from I hate this word normal, but you know what I mean? Like they don't fit into conventional whatever.
Yeah, I think just be your own normal, be whatever that means.
Yeah.
Just be that, and it's hard, isn't it? I mean, there's a certain amount of bravery and self-confidence and self-esteem, but I think in your heart. I think really, really for me, in your gut, actually, even more than your heart, sometimes that intuitive feeling when people are right. There's certain people that they're the right people for me to hang around, and I think meditation can help you kind of sit with that and like you say, bring that self-awareness to how does that actually feel in my stomach right now do I feel a sense of joy and connectiveness to these people, or do I actually feel something else that, and it's not kind of good or bad, it's just, yeah.
It's like,
and I think,
so you go.
Oh, as I say, but it's really easy for me as a 54-year-old woman to sit here and say, because I've got all that experience, but
Sure.
that would be what I would share just with young people is just, if you can, it's hard, just be you, just find out who you are and really believe, find those things that bring you joy and make you feel good. They might not be the things that everybody else is doing, and that's okay, that's okay. And yeah.
They're lovely words. Thank you for sharing that.
I do like this idea of feeling comfortable in your own skin. I love that. Somebody said that to me years ago, and I now feel comfortable in my own skin. I love that.
Me too. And I'm glad you do. And I would hope that this conversation is helping other people and inspiring other people to think, okay, perhaps I need a bit more meditation and mindfulness in my life to be able to feel like that, and then investigate and introduce it to my young folk as well, We're going to go into your third song, and then we're going to come back to close off the show. So your third song, Jude, is If Home Is Where the Heart Is by Jess Silk. Another song that I'm not sure if I know it or not. Why did you pick this song?
Okay, so Jess is quite local. She's from Stourbridge, which is near Birmingham. I was introduced to her again. We go to a lot of gigs, me and my husband. Jess, again, young person, found music again through difficult times and through lockdown. Lyrically, love her words. And this is really about, the home is where the heart is. Doesn't matter where you are, really, connect with people. You can be apart, you can be together. But yeah, it just feels like just bringing you back to remembering to be heart-centered. And she says home is where the heart is. It's with the people that I love, and I don't actually have to be in their presence. We connect, and I just love it. And it's just a great song. It's just a great song.
Okay, so let's listen to If Home Is Where the Heart Is by Jess Silk.
Candy sound radio. We're tuning in the change.
Welcome back to this last wee bit of Meditation for Misfits with Alice Chinn, and today I've been interviewing the wonderful Jude Brown. We were just having a little dance to the kind of sound jingle. Thank you for bringing us that beautiful song. What an amazing voice Jess Silk has. And again, this will be going on my playlist. Now, you had, let's do the little mindful tool. You wanted to share something. Who's this for, first of all?
Yeah, I think when you kind of asked me a question about sort of a takeaway. So for me, one of the things that I use a lot is positive affirmations, short phrases, often starting with I am,
For yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
That kind of really positive self-talk. I am strong, I am powerful, I am brave. Even in challenging times, you can recognize, how you're feeling. I'm overwhelmed even, but I am brave, I'm going to be brave. Those kind of positive affirmations are something that I use a lot. I'll drop into my body because we feel emotions, don't we? And I think through more meditation and mindfulness, we learn to be attuned to our body and how that's responding a lot more. And again, I mentioned the gut. It's called gut reaction. It's called gut feeling for a reason, isn't it? But really tuning in and breathing through that and noticing that, and then giving yourself a little pep talk through just a short positive affirmation. Even if it's I can do this.
Do you do it out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on where I am, but yeah, and often 3 times. I don't know why.
Power of 3, they say.
The power of 3. Yeah, we know that, just remind myself that I'm strong, that I'm loving. It just resonates. It gives a sense of self-compassion, doesn't it? Give yourself some love, some self-love, some self-compassion, and it gives me a purpose, to how I'm going to approach whatever the next thing is that I'm going to be doing. So I think, and it's really interesting that I talked about affirmations a lot with my participants, and that's come through. And I often just get them to tap their fingers sometimes, sort of I am loving and caring. I'm tapping my fingers. Sorry, for the benefit of radio.
Yeah, because we're obviously looking at
Yeah.
Like from your thumb out, tapping the point of each finger, no?
So coming up with maybe a 5, I am something and something is a 5 word, and just touch each finger and thumb as you say it.
I love this. I can see me using this with kids perhaps as well. Thank you for bringing us that. I love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Sorry, what were you going to say there?
I just say it works for me. And do you know, and I know, a lot of children, if they get anxious in school, young people are anxious in school, you got your hand under the desk, or you're in assembly, or you can just very gently use your inner voice, touch each finger, I call it handy breath. Oh, I do breathing, the star breathing as well, or the hand. It's handy breath. That's a tool that's right
it's
here.
Literally handy. Oh, I love that too. This is oh my God, we could carry on, but we are gonna close the show actually with a little poem that you've brought along.
Well, yeah, I'm this is a poem that was introduced to me when I was doing my mindfulness-based stress reduction training for adults years ago. We were given a little book of poems, and you'll probably know this one. But I just think it, and a friend, really good friend, shared it with me last weekend, and I went, that's the poem.
There you go.
So I don't know whether you know this. It's called Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters.
No, I
so
don't.
Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find my way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same streets. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I still don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. And it still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole. And guess what? I see it this time, but I still fall in. Oh, it's habit. It's my fault. I know where I am, so I just get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street and there's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. And chapter 5. I walk down a different street. I just love it. For me, that's about just realizing that we have choice. We might go through some really difficult times, but we can choose to do things differently. And I think that's what meditation, that awareness, that opening of acknowledging your thoughts, your feelings around those, and realizing that you might be doing the same things over and over again, actually, but they're not really working. So should we go over here and do something a bit different? And let's go and walk down a different street today. I love it.
So powerful. I've never heard that before. And that I got goosebumps and I got tears in my eyes of that last phrase. It's time to finish the show. Thank you so much for speaking so eloquently, Jude. I feel really inspired and I am very interested to see what comes out of this PhD and beyond.
Me too. When I get there. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. Always good to talk about all this stuff. Is so important. It's so great. Thank you.
Thanks again, Jude, and thank you to the lovely listeners and to Kind of Sound Radio.